Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alan, I am a professional dungeon master, aka Danger Wizard, and today I want to be talking to you guys about the Sunless Citadel, which is a campaign that was written originally back in 2000 for 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons, and then was recently re-released for 5th edition, I think back in 2017, and this is a campaign that I am starting to play with a new group of players, and I want to just go through and make a little video series after each session, do an update of basically how it's going so far. So for any of you DMs or game masters out there, or even players who are interested in running your own game, this is just going to be a series of updates, things that have worked in my games, things to look out for, things that I've changed, maybe some pitfalls here and there, and then just be an overall review of the Sunless Citadel and how the story is going so far. Before I get into how the actual game went, I want to talk a little bit about why I chose this particular scenario. I've read through this once before, and it's a pretty cool level 1 through 3 dungeon crawl. It takes place mostly inside of the Sunless Citadel, this sunken fortress. Mine is in particular taking place in Forgotten Realms. And this is a relatively new group of players. Like, some have a lot of experience, others have, I think one actually has been playing since the 80s. The rest are all fairly new at Dungeons & Dragons. I don't have too much experience, but great group of people, and I'm really excited to be playing with them. They've made, kind of organically, without any guidance from me, a really well-balanced party. We have a monk, we have a paladin, we have a fighter, and a, what's the last one? Sorcerer. So you got your tanky person, your stealthy person, your healy person who's also kind of tanky with the paladin, and then a magic user with the sorcerer. So that was great. So when we got started, we had our little mini session 0. Because I'm doing this as a professional dungeon master, this was a paid client gig. I wanted to introduce myself first, and this is always a good thing for any dungeon master to do, especially when you're playing with a new group or people that you haven't met before. I always like to go through and talk about, what they can expect from me, what the campaign is going to be about, what my play style is. For example, I like to run by the rule of cool. If you have a great idea, I will never say no to you, unless it's just beyond the pale, like unacceptable kind of behavior. But if you want to try something that's really off the wall, crazy, even if it's not technically allowed in the rules, if you think you can make it fit in the scenario, I'll give you a shot. Not going to say it's going to happen, you still have to roll the dice. But I always like to let my players have a chance to try something that they want to do, something that they think is going to be really exciting and be fun for them, because it is a game. I also tell them that I'm going to have like a scaling gradient of success. It's never a binary pass fail. Depending on the dice roll, you might succeed with complications, or you might fail with dire consequences, but maybe fail upwards too, depending on how we want the story to progress. But once I've introduced that, introduced myself, lay down some ground rules, I also ask if the people have any phobias or any triggers, any hard lines, basically, that they don't want to cross. I found this is useful because, sometimes you have players, for example, who have severe arachnophobia, and they just do not like anything to do with spiders. Actually, in one of my real games, in Descent into Avernus, I had a player who was absolutely fine with demonic possession, selling your souls, bargaining people's eternal spirits for, slight monetary advantage, but they drew a hard line at maggots. Anything to do with like grubs or squirmy little, maggoty things, they just did not want that, which, came up more often than not in this hellish setting. So once I was done going through and kind of introducing myself and my play style, I then had the other players introduce themselves. They all knew each other already, so I actually asked them how they knew each other, just so I had some frame of context. And then I went through and had them introduce their player characters. 2 of them had their characters already ready to go. The other 2 we had to go through on D&D Beyond, we were doing this virtually, by the way. We were doing this all on Discord, and then I was using Fantasy Grounds, which is an online, role-playing client that I would share my screen and have all the visuals on. We got all the characters ready, equipped everybody, and then we got started. So the Sunless Citadel is a really cool adventure in that it is pretty self-contained. It is set in, again, any setting you want, really, but it takes place around a village called Oakhurst. And the main story is that there are these strange fruits that appear once a year around midsummer. These goblins show up, they present the fruits to the village elders, the village leaders, and they sell them for 50 gold pieces. And these fruits are magical. They're able to heal anyone of any ailment or sickness, but there's only ever one each year, except sometimes in the winter there is a pale, sickly white one that the goblins also present. And these things are poisonous to the touch, even. They don't really mention in the book if those are sold or not, or if those are bought often. But I've made mention that when I was describing it in the story, sometimes less scrupulous characters will contact the goblins and purchase those danger apples. But I use that as a hook, to get the players to say, hey, you heard that there are these magical apples, and the town, they are interested in figuring out what the source of these are, where the goblins are getting these from, and they're willing to pay you gold, obviously, but because it's a village and there's some real estate maybe at stake here. I said you could also turn that into you can negotiate maybe getting an old abandoned mill if you want to set up your own business, or if you want like a title or a deed or something like that, just something beyond like the typical gold and glory. There's also a second hook mentioned in the story, which is really interesting. There was another party that already went out before the players go on their adventure. Four other adventurers set out a month before, never to be heard from again. And two of them are nobles. Two of them are part of this family, the Hercule family, and the matriarch who runs a local general store. She contacts the adventurers and says, like, hey, look, I'm willing to pay 125 gold pieces per signet ring that you return to me, with news of their death or whatever happened. But if you find them alive and bring them back in good health, I'll double that, to 250 gold each, 500 total. Roughly, I think that one gold piece is worth about 100 American dollars or so. That's how I have the conversion rate in my head. So a sizable chunk of change. With those hooks, I had the players arrive at Oakhurst. This was something that I stumbled on a little bit because we'd already stopped, or we'd already, done our session 0. That took about an hour or so. But once I had the players meet up, we didn't really have like a cohesive background or backstory as to like why they were all working together, other than maybe the paladin was just getting out of the hospital, so he'd been in Oakhurst for a while already. There was the fighter who's a minotaur, who's a former gladiator. He showed up just looking for work. I made mention that there were bandits out in the old road where the Sunless Citadel is rumored to be, and that there was a price for bandits or goblins that were brought in with proof of banditry. You can't just, I told them, like, you can't just go around killing people and saying, oh yeah, that these were bandits, pay up. Trying to nip the murder hobo urge in the bud. I had everyone roll a d6 because there are 6 different rumors that you can hear while you're in town, and I don't want to spend too much time in town because that can be a little slow and it's not too built up. But I had them each roll, and then I told each of them like a different rumor that they've heard about either the other adventurers that went out, the goblins who live around there, a little bit of background on the Sunless Citadel. I also had one of the NPCs, a priestess of Pelor. She came out, and we'll say I made a little background about how she'd been talking to the sorcerer the night before, and she was there to wish them on their way, or wish them well. I actually gave them a benediction. Everybody was respectful. Everyone bowed their heads. No one rebuked her. So she gave them a little blessing of Pelor, and I gave everyone inspiration. That's something I like to do actually in my games when I start off, is give people inspiration just for introducing their characters, just for showing up, and then that way they have that cool inspiration point which they can use to spend on to gain advantage on a roll. Also, it reminds me to tell them what inspiration is, so that they have a chance, they know how to get it. Basically do something that seems really cool, impresses the DM, or just have some great role playing. If you do that, you get an opportunity for this little reward, because sometimes I feel like inspiration is one of those things that just you kind of forget about if you don't. I've forgotten about it in the past if I don't mention it in the beginning. So that was good. Once everyone got the benediction, they went out, stopped at the general store, got some potato chips, and then they were on their way. Because they traveled a long day, nothing too crazy happened on the way there. And then we got to the Ashen Plains, where the ravine is, where the Sunless Citadel sank down. It's miles long, and it's a very desolate, scary place. And this is something that I think I might have misstepped a little bit on when I was describing the ravines and how there's all these pillars jutting out of it, and there was a rope leading down there. The intention is for the players to go down the rope, get on the top of the first pillar, and then the adventure really begins. That's where the maps start, and then you can have all the encounters follow from there. But for some reason, I think the players had in mind, like, oh, we have to get to the other side of the ravine. So they used Mage Hand, they tied another rope, and they brought it over, and now we're doing they're crossing over the ravine. So I tried to introduce another way of getting down there, or drawing them down, saying there's another pillar leaning on the other side of the ravine that's even closer to the top. You could just like walk down there or just drop down, and then you have access to going down towards where the citadel supposedly is. But we left it on a cliffhanger because the last player to cross the ravine was this giant 7-foot tall Minotaur fighter. So I described that everyone else, they made it over. I had everyone roll either athletics or acrobatics. I like to give players 2 options for making a skill check. So one thing I like to do is I like to give my players multiple options for the skill checks that they need to roll when doing something. So if you're trying to get information of somebody, I'll usually say, make an intimidation check or a persuasion check, depending on what your stats are and how you want to role play it. For crossing this rope, I gave them the option to do either an athletics check or an acrobatics check. They both seemed applicable, but they both use different skills. That way it gives the players more choice to a little more agency in the gameplay. But the thing I did is, after all the players had crossed except for the Minotaur, because he's presumably much heavier than them, I described that the rope was bending down, and at the apex he was maybe only 10 feet from the top of one of the central pillars. And I decided, since we were getting close to time, that would be a great time to introduce something with glowing red eyes, shiny white teeth, and a chittering, scratching sound that lunges at him. And that's where we stopped it for the night. The players seemed very excited about this, so we left it at a cliffhanger. Now I hope that they're excited to start next week. So we'll see where the campaign goes from there. One of the reasons I'm really excited about running this particular campaign is because we agreed to do 6 sessions with this group. And I think an adventure that's supposed to just go from level 1 to 3 can definitely be run in 12 hours, 11 hours really after the session 0. That way, if they want to continue onwards, there's more adventures that we can do from there. I can make up my own, or I can pick more. I think there's a second adventure that starts at level 3 that's even mentioned in this one, in the Sunless Citadel. I've had problems in the past where, you pick a campaign and there's, or either you make your own campaign, you homebrew it, or you find a new campaign book and you sit down, you start playing, and then it just goes on forever. And I'm working full time back in the office again, and I have multiple campaigns going on, so my time isn't as available or free as it was before. So I am more attracted to having these finite, smaller, kind of bite-sized campaigns. So you still get the experience of a full campaign, leveling up, going on quests, but there's a time limit. There's an end in sight. If you want to continue on from there, I think that's a great way to kind of keep it fresh and keep people, free, I guess. They don't feel beholden. They don't feel like it's an obligation anymore. It's something that you regularly check in on. Hey, is this working for you? If so, great. Do you want to keep continuing? If not, what's not working? Do you want to change it, or do you want to just, call it quits for now? Either way is fine, but I think it engenders more communication, which is great. So, like I said, I'm very excited to see where this goes. I've never run this campaign before, but I am excited to do this. I'm probably going to run it again in the near future. Hopefully you guys found this useful. If you did, give this a thumbs up, like, subscribe for more videos. I'll be doing another one of these each day, each week rather, as I run another session in the Sunless Citadel campaign. And if any of you guys have run this campaign before, feel free to leave any comments, how you guys set the scene, how you did the introduction, which characters or NPCs that you really enjoyed using, or things that have worked, just to make it more enjoyable for your players and for yourself. That's gonna do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comments below, or give a like, subscribe, hit the bell icon too. I guess it's a thing I always forget to say. But I'll be uploading more of these videos going ahead in the future. Have a great day, guys, and remember, whatever life throws at you, roll with it.